Everton faced 12-point sanction. Premier League proposes penalty after £304 million losses. City will, quote-unquote, robustly defend position to clear their name. This by John Percy, Tom Morgan and Sam Wallace. Martin, I know you've looked into this story. How realistic is this prospect in your opinion?
Yeah, it's a good story by John Percy here. It's and the others. It looks like as the Everton's profit and sustainability hearing for one alleged breach had the Premier League's case being put forward and the suggestion to the independent commission that they should consider a points deduction as a penalty. And the report is this could go as high as 12 points. I mean, that is similar to the EFL's position with all their financial fair play hearings. That their guidelines suggest up to a 12-point deduction, so that would be similar there. The independent commission, they will make their own decision. Both sides can. My understanding is both sides. Everton can make their suggestion, Premier League can make their suggestion, and then they will come to a decision. So, but 12 points or any points deduction, you would think the rest of the Premier League teams will be looking and watching carefully, because they will be expecting the Premier League to be doing this, because it's a test case. It's the first ever alleged breach hearing that we've had.
Well, yeah, in this article, Miguel, it says Everton's case being heard by an independent commission after they recorded those losses of £304 million, well above the permitted amount of £105 million set out by the Premier League. Nonetheless, Miguel, how catastrophic would it be for Everton Football Club? And in that Telegraph piece, they've got a table of the Premier League which would see them rock bottom, 9 points from safety if that was implemented.
Oh, I mean, huge repercussions, potentially changing the face of the club, and to a certain degree the Premier League, given what it could potentially illustrate going forward about, say, the Manchester City case, which is much more complicated and could yet go on for much longer. But Everton's position in this is that they had allowances for the effects of COVID. I suppose we've been in a situation now where kind of Everton have been treading water for some time. It's actually been often not quite a miracle that they've stayed up, but they could have gone down in a few seasons. And you would think if it comes to this, and actually, the chatter last week was that it was expected to be a suspended point sentence. But this is of the reports from today, obviously, would suggest a firmer deduction or something much stronger. But this would surely, you would think, relegate them. That would have financial consequences. We await to see what happens with the takeover, although, of course, it's not even a certainty that the 777 planned purchase would go ahead. And then, of course, there's the issue of having to go through the owners and directors test. And yeah, it really is uncharted waters for the club. One who has been kind of so top heavy for so long. And then, as we say, everyone's watching this because of what it might mean for the Manchester City case. Now, and again, like this is a story with so many recent strands of football going into it, not least the independent regulator.
Well, Miguel, just comment. We'll get to Martin in a moment because he's got a piece regarding the prospective new owners of Manchester City, of Everton, sorry. But let's talk about Manchester City quickly, because in the Telegraph there's a follow-on piece from Tom Morgan. They said what Everton call means for City. In that piece, Morgan says that it's actually, to compare the two cases, is futile. Just what's your take on that situation because of the complexity of the City case versus Everton's situation?
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. They're just not comparable in that way in terms of the nature of what's being looked at, and totally different in terms of complexity. I think the way one is relevant to the other is, as Martin stated, and I think as a lot of the reporting today has said, the rest of the Premier League are going to be watching this because there is such a kind of, I suppose, a pressure for the Premier League to regulate, as they would say, to a satisfactory level with the Manchester City case. So, yeah, this is a sort of a test case in that regard. But equally then, of course, there's another pressure in all this, which is we've got the independent regulator coming in. And a lot of people in football think that the Premier League also wants to show that it can regulate itself and doesn't necessarily need an independent regulator. So there's a lot of the recent political themes that have been influencing football that are coming to a head in a story like this.
OK, well, let's get to Martin then. Martin, back page of your paper, The Times. 777 has plans for sanctions. Your byline, what can you tell us about this story for the prospective new Everton owners?
Yeah, so, I mean, if there was any sort of concerns that 777, if their takeover was approved, that they would sort of walk away if Everton was going to get a major points deduction. Well, my understanding, speaking to people with knowledge of the process, is that they have planned contingencies. If A, there's points deductions, B, Everton get relegated, it won't affect the takeover, but it will affect the price that they pay. So if Everton end up being relegated this season, then the amount that they would actually pay to Farhad Bashiri would be considerably less, as you would expect. But this is all built into the takeover agreement, is my understanding.